Welcome to the Community Couch. I am the co-host Ray Castillo, licensed marriage and family therapist, with my lovely other co-host.
Shacoya Graham, also systemic therapist.
There you go. You skipped the other part of the licensed marriage and family therapist. Today we have an amazing topic today.
We do.
I'm super duper excited because number one, we're in June, which is Pride Month, and I am so prideful of being queer. And second, this topic that of course is forever part of what needs to be discussed and brought forward the most, especially in the climate that we're living in today, right? So I'm super excited, and we have a guest with us that is going to be talking with us about our topic today. And it's about trans care, right? And I know probably a lot of people are saying like, why trans care only if it's Pride Month and we should cover all the LGBT plus AI and all these other letters that we add to the Pride alphabet. Um, but I will say, and this is just my own, right? This is Ray's opinion. I think that we wouldn't exist today and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the trans community. And I have to, as a gay man, I have to recognize that and I have to own to that because from the very beginning, right? And I think we talked about this the last time, which is like how wonderful it is for the young people to be expressive and out there living their best life, at like in their like early 20s, where I couldn't do that, right? But we owe it all to the trans community, and I want to highlight that because there's a community also that is very marginalized, right? And so any time that I can highlight it and I can just both put it out there, I'm gonna do it.
You do it, and I support it.
Yes. So I want to introduce our friend and colleague today. So special. I'm so forever thankful, Holly, to take that you taken this time to do this with us because who better than Holly Savoy? Holly, I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role. You can present the organization that you're working with, etc. So just tell us more about you.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's exciting to do this with y'all. So, I'm Dr. Holly Savoy. I'm a psychologist in my original job life, and my pronouns are she, her. And I am also the executive director of Charlotte Trans Health, which is a nonprofit in Charlotte, which is committed to advancing health equity for the trans and gender diverse community. And we do that through education, advocacy, and increasing access to affirming care. So we have a lot of different programs. We do a lot of things.
Yeah. We'll hear about mostly all of them, I hope, because I think it's so needed. And I think that there's a gap that is needed where people need to know, where do they feel safe? Oh, yeah. Where can they look up and see and say, okay, I can go there. And like we were just talking about, and not feel judged, not to know that these people accept me.
Exactly. And that's part of why we formed, is because we knew that providers really weren't very visible back in 2012 when we started. Um, still finding affirming providers can be challenging, but it's, the number has grown tremendously. So it is a different landscape. But to better educate ourselves and to be more visible was part of why we started. And it's funny, we have a provider directory, and so many times I still get asked like, but, I'm not trans, I'm looking for a provider. And I'm like, a trans affirming provider directory is going to be LGBTQ affirming as well.
Yeah.
And the majority of our providers are LGBTQ themselves. So and many are trans and gender diverse as well. So like, it's not just exclusively trans healthcare, but everybody is committed to affirming care and holding that space for folks to be their authentic selves and support them on those journeys.
So what does Pride Month personally mean to you?
Pride Month for me is usually about joy and community. And I just feel like, with so much going on in the world, as we all know, we just need more joy. And that happens the best way possible when we all come together. And I just feel like, for the last several years, especially getting through the pandemic, And now with all the things, uh, when we come into shared space and we get time together, that is when like I fill up my cup again. Like getting in person and getting time with folks, like even being here today, like talking with you all, like it just feels so enriching to get in person contact with one another. And so Pride is when many people are getting out and about and doing things and coming out to have fun and express themselves. So, and I love that Pride feels sort of like it runs from like June through August as we're in Charlotte, right? Because I'm like, it starts this month. And then since we don't have, our official festival until August, everybody's busy already this month with Pride. And we've got Charlotte Black Pride in July, and then we've got our festival. So, yeah, we've got a summer of Pride.
Summer of Pride.
I love it. I tell you that, like, I end up talking about experiences, and a lot of people have misconceptions about Pride, and like especially the festivals type of it. And talking about coming together, it's one of the biggest and most loving experiences to come and see so much love and so much, people just, and I'm not talking, because there's a lot of people that are allies there. And you go to the festival and you see that, the parents with kids and supporting and screaming and shouting and having such a great time, and that's what Pride is about, like Holly said, it's just about community. It's about just kind of like breaking down those barriers and those walls and saying, we're all human beings. Everybody is accepted. Everybody is welcome. And they're having a good time doing that, eating good food, junk food out there. Of course, it's really hot in August here. So staying hydrated, but it's so fun. It's just so fun to go there and see everything that's happening there. All the vendors, it's just amazing.
Community is really, really important to me and Ray. It's also why we wanted to start this, because we wanted to help the community.
Yeah.
And so when you said that, I was like, yes, she is one of us. Yay, yay, yay.
Yes.
Yes. So being a leader in this community,
Yeah.
like tell me what that means to you.
I mean, it's a lot of responsibility and it's really rewarding. I got into this role never expecting that, as a clinician, I'd ever find myself leading a nonprofit. It was not, on my career plan. But, I'm one of the founding members of Charlotte Trans Health going back to day one, 2012. So, so I've been there from the beginning. So, I just feel really passionate about the work that we do. And, for me, it's a professional home. I've built so many friendships and colleagues over the years. And so, it's just kind of evolved for me, I guess, in that way as, in moving into the role of leader of the organization. And, it just means a lot to help people be their authentic selves and being able to take what I can do in my office, working with folks, and help there be more people who can do the work, who are going to be affirming providers and build that capacity in our community to support folks, just is part of the work. And I really enjoy it. It's just rewarding. It's rewarding to sit with clients and just help them, find an affirming provider to get medical care, or to just hear how much of a difference, it is to get to be out in the world and be their authentic selves. But then to be part of the community, it's always been important to me to get out there. And so, for many years before I was leading Charlotte Trans Health, I've just always been out there being like, hey, Charlotte Trans Health exists. Like, we got a lot of providers who can meet your needs, kind of stuff. It's like I'm not out there like promoting myself and my practice. I was like, get to know Charlotte Trans Health. Know that we have a collective of providers who really want to support you and do the work. We're really committed. And that's just kind of evolved. And so that responsibility also came from relationship building. So I feel like being open to being able to form those relationships and be out there and help create the bridges to connecting with, with other providers, with the resources in our community, to just finding one another, because it's so hard to navigate. It is. And navigating healthcare is just, that's a whole other topic.
Yes.
And nostalgia, it can be a full-time job. So, tell me, how did it start? How did it show?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, while I'm a founding member, is what we call ourselves, there's 13 of us. Who we consider a founder is Dr. Lisa Griffin, who's another psychologist, and she was the go-to person in Charlotte for the trans community back at that time. And she was moving out of state, and she really wanted to make sure folks were well taken care of. And so, there were others of us who were maybe seeing a handful of clients here and there. And she, we just all started talking, and it was like, well, maybe we need to bring everybody together so that we could all collectively fill her shoes. And so it was surgeons, physicians, some mental providers. And so she continued to be a part of things the first year. And so 13 of us sat down in conference room at one of our physicians' offices. And it's like, well, okay, what are we about? What are we going to call ourselves? We were not very creative at the time. Charlotte Transgender Healthcare Group is our full name. Maybe we need some bylaws. One of the physicians created our first website. We're like, we need some visibility. So that's how it started. And we just started having monthly meetings to do like education and get to know other resources, having folks in, and it's just grown over the years. So fast forward to 2020 was when we decided, what if we became a nonprofit? We could apply for funds. We could do some access to care programming. We could do some different things with that. So that was in January 2020. We didn't know both a few months later. So, but we kept going, and, here we are now.
Yeah. Yeah. Visibility, when you talk about visibility, is so, so important for the trans community, the LGBT in general. Can speak to Charlotte specifically, right? This market that we are in. What does that look like for us here, right? Why is it so important? Why is it it's still today so critical in 2026 for that?
Gosh, so many reasons why it's so important. I mean, in Charlotte, there is a very vibrant community, a very vibrant LGBTQ community and trans community, and, intersecting. But, there's still so many folks who, still have trouble navigating the resources. There are a lot of great orgs doing great work, providing different support. And, I love getting to collaborate with them. We are very much about collaboration within Charlotte Trans Health and beyond in our community. And it's so important because there are so many times that it's like, I might know about something that another organization doesn't, or another leader or person there. And so we can help kind of bridge the resources, because navigating it is still really hard. So we either find that people either don't know we exist at all still, or they definitely know about us. And there's maybe a handful in between of like, oh, maybe I've heard something. So, to me, it's really important that we increase our visibility, especially right now. It's so important to folks because there's so many folks that with lived experience who are not feeling as safe to be as full. And so, with that in mind, it's important for us to, make sure that we are still bringing visibility to the trans community, to their needs, to the ways that we can support them, to the fact that trans folks are just trying to live their lives, right, and have access to care just like anybody else gets access to care.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Because it makes, of course, when I hear you say this, it makes me think of like how it feels like sometimes we're going backwards, like with the political pocket and things like that, where it felt like before we were had a great push forward, and then now all of a sudden it's like turned down. So I kind of got a little sadness coming when I was thinking about that. What would you say like that? How politically it's affecting our fans and their families as well.
I mean, I feel like a lot of what, if you pay attention to any of the new stuff, like it's real. Like it is exhausting. There's a lot of burnout in the community. It's hard to pay attention to everything going on. Um, it definitely feels like we're going backwards, you know. I mean, we know that momentum forward always gets the pushback, but the pushback we're getting now is just, unfathomable. What none of us imagined it being this powerful. So, I mean, families are leaving the state, leaving the country. I know a handful of folks, personally and professionally, who are leaving both North Carolina for other places around the US that feel safer and are leaving the country entirely. So, you know, it's a lot for folks to be living with every day. I mean, they just, the attacks just are not stopping. And
Yeah.
I just had a lot of compassion for what folks are living with like experience.
And the exhaustion, right, of the community itself, providers as well, right? Plus that, we're working with the community, but it is it's so sad to see the fear and what is happening and how politically they're using that as a weapon, right? And throwing the trans community out there as if there are uh yeah, as if they're not human beings, right? That there is something different, right? Um, and the reality of things is that we don't see the things that they say happening, right? Um, like you said, Holly, the trans community, all they want to do is a place in society, right? They're not asking for much. They're just saying, that, and they don't want any special treatment either, right? They just want to exist. They want to be like us, and every time that I can, Holly, I throw in some things in there, to the LGBT community and plus, because we have a responsibility. We have I at least that's how I feel. I have a responsibility to the entire community, not just the gay, but I have a responsibility to the lesbian community, to the bisexual community, to the asexual community, to the trans, the pluses, right? Everybody that is within the umbrella, and we need to stand up and be more active out there and do something. Um, I wonder for you in the organization, right, helping the trans community, what do you see happening? Like, what are some of the common fears that that show up, right, when you're helping
Yeah.
them?
I mean, the fears are real that, they're going to start, trying to, you know, arrest people for being trans, right? And, that they're going to get caught up in, same as who dealt with ICE raids and attacks on immigrant communities. And, there's definitely the intersectionality of our communities, right? So, I hear that from folks. A big fear is folks are going to lose access to their medical care, to hormones or blockers. We've already seen that for youth, in a variety of different ways. And so getting access is harder. And, the reports that they're coming after adult care too, you know, it's not, it's possible. And they attack healthcare providers too. Medical providers more so have been at risk than mental health providers, but they've still brought up trying to hold us accountable for even referring or recommending medical transition care. So the access to care, just their livelihood, like you know if they lose their job, are they going to be employable? Because we see so many companies, backing away from DEI as a whole. So, uh, you know, what's at risk there? So, I mean, can they travel? Right. So, what's going to happen trying to go through security or, leave the country and trying to come back into the country with all the different stories we hear. So the, it's just a lot of unknowns and a lot of confusing information out there, right? Like the misinformation and the chaos, is working.
It's working, unfortunately.
Yes.
I was thinking, it made me think of even just getting a passport
Yes.
with their gender,
Yes.
with their correct information out there.
It's unclear where things stand these days. I feel like I was keeping up really well. I was like, okay, I'm not going to succumb to the chaos. Like, I'm going to stay on top of what's happening. And it is just so hard to keep up with every detail of all the things that they've attacked. So, to be honest, I'm like, not really sure what the status is with passports. We had an injunction that happened at one point that we're getting passports back through, but there have been a lot of reports of folks not getting the accurate gender marker on their passport. So there's still a lot of caution that if you have a valid passport right now, don't run the risk of sending it in. It may not come back. Or if you do apply or reapply, it's going to come back with the wrong gender marker. So
Yeah.
it's it's a risky situation. People are having to weigh what choices and risks they want to take for different reasons.
Yeah, because even if you, like you were saying earlier, if it is a possibility that they could leave, but they can't because of that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm thinking of parents, but their kid can't.
Right.
What do you do then? And these are things that I don't think are talked about enough, and there are real issues and real worries within families.
Exactly. People just do not understand the level of impact that I think that this administration is having on people's daily lives. That's more than restrooms. It is, it is travel. It is access to healthcare. It is housing. It is employment. It is anything and everything.
Yeah. Well, and one of the heavier attacks, right, is that this current government is doing is attacking organizations like Charlotte Health, Trans Health Network, who is nonprofit and depends on funding
Yes.
for accessibility and stuff like that. So, how are you guys doing, right, as a nonprofit organization to, I guess, like you said, just keep up above water, but also continue to do the work that you're doing,
Right.
possibly with limited funding now, right?
Absolutely, with more limited funding. So, what's been really amazing and was so exciting the last few years was that, we just really grew tremendously. And we got some amazing, funding support, which helped us launch our Access to Care program. So, we've been doing free medical and mental health and case management services for under-resourced, trans, and gender diverse folks for the last few years. Amazing to get folks who normally may not make their way to our offices to get care and to do some longer term care, which also is really hard to find for folks, right? For free. So that funding was time limited, we knew, and that ran out. And then, but under, our trajectory was, it's like, okay, can count on something else coming. And last year was just that harsh reality of no, it's not. We apply, we rely mostly on grant funding.
Right.
And the grants are more competitive because of the current climate. And our trajectory just took a different turn. So, we still have our program, so we're still doing it, but on smaller scale. So we just have to learn how to ebb and flow with, as it shrinks, how do we operate with that? when we'll get to grow our friends again, which is a when.
Yeah.
You know, this has to turn a quarter. You know, we will grow again, but it is more competitive. So we're trying to do just as much or really more because the need is not going away.
Right.
The need is increasing because of the damage that people are doing to, you know, like people's mental health right now. So the care is needed that much more. People are that much more under resourced, and the funds to support that are more limited. So, you know, we're having to work on our fundraising more, you know, trying to, you know, encourage donations to that side of things, which has been very organic for us the last few years, but really having to focus on diversifying where we're getting our funding.
Yeah. Yeah, like encouraging even the the local leaders and other programs that can help even people, right? Donations, right? I'm sure that the organization takes donations, and
Of course.
that tremendously helps,
Nonprofit does it.
right? Please give money. We need it. Yeah.
But yes, please give. Like, because people do need that. Like, knowing that you can come somewhere and get care and get, like you said, long-term care. Not just someone that's going to be there and then you will never see them again. But I think most fields, we all need someone that, I want to know who my primary care is going to be next year too. I don't want to say, will that be my same person? But if you can give. And so we will put something, we're going to put something here to say how they can give to the organization, because, yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And just, you know, happy to get out and have these conversations because it does help educate more people to understand, you know,
Yeah.
what life is really like and how we can better support one another.
Because it just makes for a healthier community.
Absolutely.
It makes everybody healthier.
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, I mean, we have to step back for a minute from what's been happening in the last couple of years, few years. And okay, you know, trans people have been around for all of history forever, right? And just a few years ago, we were all just, everybody was living their lives, doing their things, and, you know, all the things that, you know, are argued against, you know, being used against trans people were not happening and are not happening.
Right.
Right? Everybody, we were all just living our lives a little bit better and just able to, you know, do the things. I mean, all the discrimination and harassment was still real and the rates were still higher for the trans community. So don't get me wrong. It was not all, you know, butterflies and rainbows.
Right.
But it was not as, you know, attacking and pervasive as it is now.
Yeah. Education is one of the things that your organization does well, not only the community, providers, etc., right? But what does gender affirming care looks like, right? When we talk about gender affirming care, what does it include, right? Because I want the community to understand, why is it that Charlotte Trans Health needs funding to provide for our community, our trans community. So what does that look like?
Well, there are two parts to answering about affirming care that I want to get. One is that, first off, is that yes, there was gender affirming care specific trans health needs. I'll go back to those. But the first part is that we all get affirming care. Getting a haircut the way you want your haircut. Getting a Botox.
Love it.
You know.
Haven't done that yet, but I've been looking at myself like, okay, maybe I can use a little bit more
I
here.
wasn't trying to make any suggestions or anything.
I was like, maybe I needed it, and then say, no, I get headaches, so I needed Botox. My headaches are not going away. I needed Botox. Always like everybody sees me like.
So in so many ways that, the things that we do, are intended to be affirming, right? Of our genders and our expression. So we all benefit from it.
Yes.
And then gender affirming care as specific to trans healthcare, includes different things from, the social aspect of gender affirming care, of working with folks to affirm their identities and, affirm their gender expression. And so, helping folks with, clothing and name and pronouns and, you know, all those sort of things, the social aspect of things. The medical part is and surgical are what most people are thinking of. And that's what also is really being attacked, right? And especially for youth.
Yeah.
So that's hormones, hormone therapy, which if we really step back, hormones are naturally occurring in every one of our bodies.
Right.
We all just have certain natural levels. And all we're doing is trying to shift those levels of what is naturally occurring in our bodies to align with one's gender identity. So puberty blockers just hit a pause button for youth who have reached a certain point in their development. And there's a lot more that goes into it, so I'll try not to over explain. But so blockers help to hit pause so that, for younger kids, we can have time to really kind of explore and figure some things out before making a decision about whether to continue on with hormone therapy or not, or their natal puberty. And so, and then hormones are doing, testosterone or estrogen, progesterone, to, again, like I said, kind of shift those levels of what is most prominent in our bodies to have the expected, secondary sex characteristics take shape. And then surgeries. So whether it's, face, top, bottom, different surgeries that exist for folks to, again, help their bodies be more in line with one's gender identity.
Yeah. Sometimes I have these conversations, right, with our friend group, and I'm blessed in the sense that I have, straight friends, and I have obviously a lot of friends from the community, and I always like to kind of engage in these conversations, and sometimes they ask me questions, and they truly are just curious, right? And when we talk, I've had people ask me, well, but what is so bad about them stopping to use hormones, right, for that? I said, well, put it this way. I'll give it to you this way. When I'm speaking to specifically to male, I'm like, if you needed, some testosterone because your male parts are not working well, or you're having, just issues about your body and you want a little bit of push or whatever, right? Do you deserve that for you? So yeah, absolutely. I said, well, so do they, right? I said, because it's all about who they are, who they want to be, who they feel they are, and then and it's just their right. And and I also put it to a way in my family. I was speaking to my family. I was like, imagine if because I have a lot of diabetic family, diabetic illnesses in my family, and like imagine us taking insulin away from our friend from our families, just because we believe that they don't need it anymore. Why, right? And when you put it into those contexts, then they sit with it and they're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. So it's good enough educating people.
And I think those are great examples. You have to find the way to get it relatable to folks.
Yeah.
So, I love those opportunities to educate folks and be like, okay, now just try to step into these shoes for a minute.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it also, right, is that educating component that a lot of people are, the whole political discussion of disinformation, right, and misinformation. And a lot of folks don't understand because they don't know, but and hopefully and the information that's out there. I mean, some people just don't want to read or listen.
Yeah, we can't help everybody, but do want that the information, like I think even like what you just said about how I guess where people say they want to be passionate about children, right? And so when they're saying, oh, well, we shouldn't be letting them choose at such a young age, whatever. But even just hearing what you just said, it may be more enlightening to people that this just holds off until they can make a choice.
Like, exactly. And it's not being done in ways that they make it out to be. I mean, there's so much thought and consideration and consultation and parent involvement that is part of the decision making. It is not as rushed and willy-nilly and all the things that they make it out to be. So, and we can still prescribe the same medication used as a puberty blocker for a cisgender child. We just can't prescribe it if they're trans.
Interesting.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that doesn't get talked about.
Right. It's still like testosterone. It's still given. They have all these centers all over the place, but you can't.
Yeah. So it's
And
just
that's
when you're prescribing it for this reason, we can't give it.
And that's when you see, right, the attack, right? It's not necessarily, there is just an attack. It's just the way that they attack our trans community, which is really, really sad. And then we talk about also, one of the things that I really want to bring up is our trans community of color. That's another level, right? And Holly, tell us about just that, how to.
As much as I can. I mean, you're acknowledging I'm cis white, het presenting. I know from, the many folks that I talk to and consult with, and, we know the data, especially Black trans women are the most marginalized and the most at risk. Those are the folks we see, most on the list every year when we have to hold Transgender Day of Remembrance in November, which is when we are honoring the lives lost, violence in the trans community. Everything is more challenging. We know that any one marginalized identity, right, is going to amplify the challenges in our society. And so then just any degree of intersectionality and multiple marginalized identities just amplifies it. And so being trans alone is one of the most marginalized communities in the U.S. And then layer in race, ethnicity, ability,
And socioeconomic status, which is huge because that's another issue that we have within the trans community is the level of poverty.
yes,
It's
underemployment, right? And so it's harder to get employment. So, we see higher rates of folks doing sex work, other ways of having income. And, we have to help folks have access to the resources they need. So that's one of our challenges is, healthcare is also a necessity.
absolutely.
But, if people don't have food, clothing, shelter, income, then healthcare, with wax is last, right? So, we're trying to help folks with our case management to help people get access to the other resources too, and healthcare. So it's a huge challenge. And yeah, definitely see that in Charlotte.
Do you see that like more in? I know that we're in Charlotte, but like on the outskirts or in different, like maybe smaller areas as well. Is it worse or?
I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I can say that I know that, we have a lot of houseless and housing insecure trans folks in Charlotte proper. And, we continue to work on extending our reach, and our program does serve all the surrounding Charlotte metro counties. It was a nice expansion, and we got funding to be able to do that. But reaching the rural folks is harder. Again, knowing the resources, building the trust, having the resources near enough to get them there takes a lot of work.
So a lot of dollars.
Yeah, but it's what it is. Yeah, that this doesn't exist and cannot happen without the support, the financial support, right? Because yeah, Yeah, it's a thing. Let's talk mental health within the community. You know,
Like, so with the mental health, like, what do you got? Like, what are you seeing mentally going on, especially in this political climate? And yeah, the things that we're hearing that are wrong.
Yeah. I mean, again, kind of what I was saying earlier. I mean, just the burnout and the, fatigue of folks. So, more depression, more anxiety, more challenges. So, for any folks who, are also maybe, struggle with executive functioning, organizing around all the things when there's so much chaos, can become that much more challenging, you know, especially when, depressed by what's going on, having a lot of insecurity about what's going to happen, not knowing from day to day, like, okay, what am I going to wake up to today? Um, families and friends. I mean, people are finding where their supports are and where they are not. We've seen a lot of, family divide come up uh, through, you know, people being so much more vocal with anti-trans rhetoric so that, uh, it's harder to know who are the safe people to come out to. Uh, we're taking away resources. We're taking away safe places in schools for youth. Uh, we're taking away safe places in the workplace for adults. So it's just, you know, folks who maybe I was seeing who, were kind of feeling like doing better in so many ways around just getting to live as their authentic selves. You know, it's still, I still see a lot of joy in that. I still see folks doing that and being like, you know what? But this is who I am. Like, this is not going to stop me from living my life. So I see a lot of resilience too. So I don't want to be all, I feel like I'm so much gloom and doom talking about today. But there's so much resilience and people are really stressed. We do have to come back and, talk about what's going on in the world. And so I have some folks who are very focused there. And I have some folks who, you know, that sort of like comes in on the periphery from time to time. But there's so much other stuff going on in life, joyful and challenging, that it's like, I got to focus on this stuff. Like, what's going on is stressful. And
I still have what I have to do in front of my face.
yeah, so we got to focus on the here and now. And so that's a lot of the work and finding the resilience.
which again, right? I can't just stop highlighting it. It's why we're here
Yeah.
because of the resilience of the trans community. You know, um, one of the things I don't know if you remember this, but my symposium at Pfeiffer, my research project was on the trans community. Did you remember you came?
I did kind of.
And I had my little bow tie, my trans flag, and everything. It was the cutest thing I did, and it was really shocking. One of the things that I was really shocked the most was the suicide rates
Yeah.
and the crisis that exists within the community, the trans community, which was alarming. And and you'll be actually surprised I didn't bring any stats today. Normally,
Always the stats, man.
yeah, but I could definitely share what I found, and this back a couple of years ago, so I'm assuming today it's especially with the political climate, it's probably been higher again. But that's a real thing for the trans community, right? So not necessarily statistics, but let's when we talk about Charlotte, do you see that a lot? Do you hear of that a lot within our community here?
Yeah. I mean, the rates are higher, and I can't talk stats if you want. I mean, the general running stat, and I don't know if it's increased much, but is already at 41%. Wow. Is the typical number we quote. And for comparison, it's about 1.6% in the general population. And that's an attempt.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a dramatic difference in the number of folks who make an attempt. And yeah, I know folks that we've lost in the community over the years, past and more recently, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
To get to know folks are getting to that place And I mean, as mental health providers, I mean, we all know how challenging it is to help support individuals and their families and loved ones through that.
What do you think we're missing though? Like, how are we not reaching even the ones that are affirming care? Like, what, especially as a cisgender woman, how do, like, what are we missing for this community?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I wish we had the answer. I mean, you know, I think part of it is that it's still hard to navigate in the healthcare system. So uh, finding and trusting that providers are going to be affirming is still really tough. The rate of health discrimination in healthcare is so high still. So building that trust, and it's like, okay, yeah, can I really trust you? And can I really trust you with how much I'm struggling, right? And I mean, we know that trust building and that relationship is the central part of our work as therapists.
Right.
So, uh, you know, having folks really trust and believe, like, okay, yeah, you're there for me no matter what, right? And no matter who I am, I think is part of the work. And I had another thought and I've lost it.
I think it's important. It'll come back to you. I think it's important when we talk about, for us, health workers and clinicians, it's important to really educate ourselves, right? And I think it's it's our responsibility, because we need to be open, and I think you and I, Holly, were talking when we first met about this idea of many people saying, oh yeah, we are affirming clinicians, right? And giving themselves that title, but do they really understand what that entails, the responsibility comes with that, and what is it that they need to do so that then, right, they're not re-traumatizing
Right.
our communities again, right? So I think that's important, and your organization does that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we do our best. It is a really challenging thing because it's never ending learning for all of us. I mean, about, whether it's being affirming of the trans community or, affirming of anyone who is different from ourselves, right? Learning to step back and appreciate, how those differences can play in and factor in different ways just is so important for us to be able to talk about and to name. And yeah, if we step in it, we need to be able to recognize it and own it as providers. And so, it's not always looking for perfection, but it is knowing that there is and are things that we need to learn. There are always ways that we can continue to learn more. It doesn't stop. And so, yeah, we do focus on competent affirming care is what I talk about a lot when we do our education, just in helping folks to think about, okay, what level am I at? Am I a novice? So am I, I kind of picked on, we talk about LGBTQ friendly a lot for the longest time. And I'm like, friendly started to become way overused, right? So, and what does that really mean? And so, we pulled from some different places and tried to do our best to operationalize, a version of a self-attestation that we ask of any providers who become members of Charlotte Trans Health so that folks at least know, like, am I getting someone who kind of, is at least kind of for my name and pronouns and who I am and is familiar with some of the basics, but maybe they don't have the knowledge to be able to provide a referral letter for surgery. Maybe that's someone who's advanced, who's, been in practice 4 years, seeing more trans folks, has gone to more trainings, has done that training specifically. So people know what they're getting. And we did that because we had folks encounter that before we were doing that and get to a therapist office, be like, hey, I need a surgery letter. The therapist was like, oh, I'm not really, qualifying to do that yet. And so it wasted the therapist's hour and that client's time thinking they were going to get that accomplished. So we wanted to prevent that. Again, we're trying to remove any barriers so folks can know, like, I just need someone who gets me, but, you know, I'm coming to therapy because I want to work on my anxiety. I'm good with where I am. I don't need, that trans specialized kind of stuff. So I can look at anybody on the list. If I know I'm really early in exploring my identity and really thinking about medical and surgical aspects of affirmation, then maybe I want to go ahead and get into somebody who's advanced, right? Who's going to be able to know that stuff and help guide me down their path.
I have a saying, my quote, it's mine too. I said, we can always be like culturally, because I used to hate when people say, I'm culturally competent. I don't even know if I'm culturally competent, but okay. But like, I like to say curious. So everyone's like, we can always be culturally curious. However, also on the flip side, I think there's this balance that we have to hold of being curious and not, I need you to tell me everything, like,
Right. Yeah.
about you. So having that, like that, just that balance, and curiosity,
Yeah.
because each person, no matter what it is, they're an individual person.
Right.
But yes, with the letter, I'll write a letter.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it. That's good.
So, but thinking of that, like, what does a provider need to do to go through becoming one of your providers?
Yeah, so we operate as like a membership association of providers. So our people call us a network or a collective. We get different labels. And we can roll with all of them. As to our identity.
Right.
But we started kind of as a membership organization for healthcare providers. So really anyone who's curious, and wanting to engage in better serving the trans community is eligible to join us. And so, licensed eligible healthcare professionals. So medical, mental health, allied health. We have all sorts of different disciplines in there. And then we just have a few asks of folks. We ask folks to come to a couple of meetings. We meet monthly, a couple of meetings a year, do some amount of education. It doesn't have to be like formal CEUs, but some amount of education in trans health every year. And we do some of that in our monthly meetings. So you get 2 for 1 there, and then some volunteering and giving back to the community. Ideally for Charlotte Trans Health, but that can happen in a lot of different ways. So I've added it up. It's like 11 hours a month, or not a year.
Right. It's not much.
Right, which really isn't a lot of time. So if folks are committed, and dues, right? So folks are interested and committed, and also looking for that connection and community. The collaboration that we get among providers, just I feel like makes such a difference. I have just, I still like it sticks with me. Had a woman that I worked with, and she moved out to San Francisco and then needed to touch base about a letter. So we reconnected, and she was like, I really miss, the care I had in Charlotte.
Right? Some San Francisco.
Exactly. That is my reaction. I was like, but you're in San Francisco. Like, you were in, like, Moscow of trans healthcare. Like, you have such amazing hair. But she was like, but it's also siloed. And she's like, I knew that, like, you talked to my doctor. And, like, and I knew that, if I needed something, like, y'all were in connection with one another. And, like, that community, collaboration, like, meant something to her. And I was like, oh, I mean so much, right? Like, I was like, oh, we're better than San Francisco.
I will say, let's not put San Francisco down, but
I know, I love San Francisco.
no, but no, yeah, but I think also it's Charlotte. It's a small community still, and I think that's the beauty of Charlotte. We're a large enough community, but yet we're still very, you could still connect, right? And I think that is to our advantage rather than going to a huge city that has so much care and opportunity, but still feel like there's not the connection, right?
Exactly. There. I think that's what you guys. It sounds like you guys have done very well. Like, because when I talk to other nonprofits, they have maybe 10 lists, or oh, I know that one over there, but nothing is together. Like, these people are meeting monthly, to have this collaboration talk, and also like networking. Oh, because when you're sitting with someone, I'm sure one's bring something up. If you don't have those connections, how can you tell someone to go here?
Right.
If that's huge, that is so huge.
Yeah.
I even have that.
Thank you. I think it makes a world of difference. It's made a world of difference in just the care that I feel like I get to provide and the relationships I've built with like physicians and surgeons that folks are going to where, I can be like, okay, so you need to get in touch with that provider. And, I can send the text and be like, hey, can we touch base? And, because we know how hard that is sometimes to be calling and trying to be like, catch a provider between, patient visits and, and doing that, coordination of care. And so I think it's just been more enriching for the community for us to be here and working together to support the trans community. And then as providers, just like I said, the relationships I know I've built over the years. And, we just had a membership meeting last night that was in person, and we do that quarterly. And we focused. We found that folks want to just get to connect with each other when we're there. And so that's what we did last night. And it was just so nice to see some folks just really getting to know each other and connect, and that we don't get to do when we're all in the little boxes on the skirt, right? So it gets harder as we grow. Growing is a good problem, but it also means like there are new folks coming in, and I'm like, it's hard to keep track too, which is, is lovely, but try to make them wait to get to know the new folks who are getting involved with us.
It's been, I told you guys that in my own life, I worked in fertility. Did I ever tell? Yes. And I remember, like, this crazy story. I remember, and I was young when I worked there, and I remember a trans male coming in, and him talking about like what he wanted to do with his eggs and things like that. And I remember I was in there very young, you guys, like 20 something, talking to them about this, and no one else, these big doctors, all these very smart people around me, not doing it, not knowing how to have that conversation. And I remember sitting there crying with him because he was trying to go off to college, but also trying to make the best decision, and no one was there. No one was there. And I'm glad you were. Now I'm sitting here wondering, what did I say? Was it okay? But I do remember like him saying, no one will listen. And finally, I feel like you're listening. And I'm like, I'm listening, but I don't have the connections to do anything past that. And so, again, hearing about this program is amazing. This collective, this movement, I think that you guys have created, is beautiful.
I love hearing that story because, sometimes it is just being heard, right? To be seen and to be heard.
I knew.
That has means so much to every single one of us.
I will be talking a lot more about this. And sending them your way.
Yeah. And getting involved.
Yes.
Getting involved.
Number one.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys actually have a booth during Pride?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, we do Charlotte Pride. We'll be at Charlotte Black Pride. So, the number of events we do has grown over the years. I mean, I remember the first time we did a booth at Charlotte Pride. It was like, oh, I guess maybe we should have some swag and stuff. A member was like, here, I'll get us a booth this year. And so, a bunch of us pitched in so we could buy some swag to, do our first booth years ago. And, how it's evolved. So it's again, like, to me, again, being out in community in those spaces, right? Connecting with folks. And, it just is, again, so enriching when folks come by and you can help answer questions, just listen for a minute. Also have the folks who stop by and they're like, I've used your services. Thank you. I used your directory. I found my doctor through y'all, or that sort of stuff is just so lovely to be like, okay, good. Okay, we are having an impact. And if I heard that one person say that we made a difference.
So that's what we were going to ask about. Like the hopes, even though we have talked about some hard things here today, but where do you see progress going? Then when you see the direction of this?
I mean, our focus right now to me is actually increasing our visibility. That is so important. We can't hide who we are. We're not going to hide who we are and what we do. So I want more folks to know about us. We need those folks who are not, are kind of like in the middle, not necessarily buying all the disinformation and misinformation, but not necessarily, full on allies and advocates, to know more and get the accurate information. So, our plan is to stick around and be here and make it through this, however long this lasts. And like I said, we got to swing back the other way at some point. Yeah. It's going to be harder this time around, but as a community, our resilience is so strong, we'll figure it out. And, and my hope lies in that resilience. Yes, trans people are, so important to the community history for the entire LGBTQ community, like you said, right? And, and so, and the resilience of the community navigating and weathering storms like this, we've made it through it before. We've got to make it through this one too. So my hope is in the resilience. And in the meantime, we find our moments of joy, right? So we find ways to have some fun, to connect with one another, and forget about all the things for a little while. And that's how I see us getting through it, I guess.
I like it.
Yeah. And so there's there's a question about policymaking, right? And if they, if this gets to them, right, because this is important, they're the ones that are making legislation and etc. What would you want them to like hear from you, right? As representing an organization that's doing so much for this community.
I mean, I would want them to hear from folks with lived experience and for them to actually listen to those folks, because I know they have gone, to all levels of our government to speak and to really listen and try to find their humanity again of, folks just want to live their lives and have the same access to resources and same freedoms as anybody else. And that there are things that we could put in place, like the Equality Act at the national level, and other things we could do that would just allow us to protect everybody. I mean, there's so many times where people in all different systems say, it's about everybody. And it's, and it's for all the people. And it's like, well, no, you keep excluding certain groups. No, you're not about all the people. The lived experience stories have a better impact. I know that my privilege can sometimes get me into spaces. And so I will use that privilege to fight the battles and, be the accomplice. So that because it's exhausting for folks with lived experience. And at the same time, uplift those voices.
I'm thinking also letting them know that their rights to do it whatever their body has nothing to do with them. Right? Golly, just mind your own business.
Exactly. Body autonomy. That's simple, right?
You can be who you want to be. Other people can be who they want to be. I wish. Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
So simple.
He's powerful and simple. And there's so many contradictions, right, in what's brought up, right? People didn't want to be told to wear masks. Didn't want to be told what to do with their bodies, right? Right? But then we want to tell other people what to do with theirs.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
As an ally and for our community that are allies, what can we do beyond all of that? You added this because I was just gonna ask a question, but you added beyond social media. What more can we do?
Yeah. And I like to clarify as a trans ally, because, and I said before, het presenting, so visibility is important to me too as a het presenting bisexual female. So, but as an ally, and appearing as an ally in all forms, but trans allyship is speaking up, is using our voices, is using our privileges that we have. It is just so important to challenge the misinformation. Don't let it just go by. Speak up when, a poor taste comment or joke is made. Correct people when they're using the wrong pronouns. Yes, we can do so many things that just, insert it in there. I will, I can have the conversation all day long with folks if they want to. I walk around, I consider myself a walking billboard a lot of the time. I have so many, pride and trans rights and Charlotte Trans Health shirts that, I just walk around with so many different t-shirts on because I'm like, say something, please. But more often than not, I usually get the, hey, I like your shirt. Yeah. So, which is lovely too. But, and it's letting folks know, like, okay, I'm an ally. I'm here, I support, like, again, that visibility, right? Not because so many people are moving around in this world, just even on a daily basis, going to the grocery store and stuff, just not knowing who you're walking past. And that can be really scary for some folks, and these days. So, that's one way, I find just, I walk around and I've got errands to run. I'm like, put on a shirt.
I have a person that watches our show that they're going to be so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. Awesome. A fellow
Yes.
billboard.
Yes, a fellow billboard is going to be big happy. He said that.
Yeah. And in closing, right, I know that you guys have, is your office open? Like, is that, we have some lower folks that actually go to your office and stuff. Like, how can they connect with the organization?
So we sublease an office through one of our partners, RAIN, HIB, support organization. So we sublease at their drop-in location, The Drop on Monroe Road. Okay. So we are there part-time. So otherwise, we work pretty remotely. And then because we're a network of providers all over the Charlotte area, and some even branching in other parts of the state through mental health services, being telehealth so much these days, the best way is to connect online through our website, through sending an email, getting in touch with us, paying attention to our social media. We try to make sure folks know when we're going to be out and about at different events, so that, in the different events that we host as well, so that they can find times to, meet our providers, when we're out at tabling events like at Charlotte Pride. I love that folks can come up and maybe actually have, a physician there for a little while and actually get to ask a question, and, come out to the different things that we host for education or building community.
Awesome. So we can find that on your website?
On our website.
Perfect. Can we also find the list on how to find a provider?
Yes. So we have the provider directory on our website.
Okay.
So that is searchable in a lot of different ways, including those competency levels. So the folks can narrow things down: insurance, area of town, ages, specialty area, that sort of stuff. So good accomplishment to have that big searchable directory over time.
That
Who knew they were so much work? You see them on all sorts of websites. I have learned so much about what goes into that. I'm like, not that I still know much technology and websites, but but it's important. So yes, it's a resource. It's a resource for somebody looking for any sort of LGBTQ affirming provider. It's a good resource to find local folks. So yeah, our website, we have a contact form for getting in touch with us. And like I said, our social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Perfect. All right. Well, Holly, thank you so much for spending time with us. Did you have anything else?
no.
Okay. Yeah, it was lovely. What a great conversation to have, especially in June as we're celebrating Pride. Also, I wanted to I didn't say this, but thanks to the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, they're actually using their space today. So thank you guys for allowing us your space and being so open. And thank you, Holly, for making that connection. We're really excited because I was like, what a great way of wrapping this up. We're in the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. We have Holly from Schroeder. I mean, it is great. So thank you so much. We hope that we can, collab again on another time, another topic, because I know this is not just the end of it. I mean, there's a lot of work to continue to get done in the community. And definitely we want to, our little podcast, we want to continue to support in many ways that we can.
Yes.
So thank y'all for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here talking with y'all. You're awesome. Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride. We'll be out there soon.